How's it going, everybody? I want to talk a little bit about some portion control strategies because sometimes when we're first starting to get the hang of finding five, it can be a little bit difficult because we don't really know how much we're going to need to eat, we're going to end up eating. And so, we might put a bunch of food on our plate and then we're halfway through it and we're like, I'm satisfied, but I've got all this food. I don't know what to do with it. I don't want to waste it because we don't like wasting food. You remember your mom telling you, there's starving children in Africa, so eat all your food. So we have kind of this ingrained cultural aversion to leaving food behind. So there's a couple of different ways that we can create some built-in portion control that can help us to kind of dial in that five. Because what we would do is we would take a small portion and we would maybe finish it all. If we do end up finishing it all, then we have a stopping point because the food is gone. But hopefully it's a little bit less than we would, normally eat. And so, we can just be done and then evaluate kind of how we're feeling based on that amount of food. Because that can be a lot easier emotionally, psychologically than leaving food behind on a plate. So there's a couple of different strategies that I like for kind of a portion control diving board, jumping start. And one is to use a smaller plate. So, there's something just pleasing to the eye and the psyche about a full plate of food. And so if that's what you're accustomed to, a really easy way to kind of cut back on the amount of food that you serve up for yourself is to use a smaller plate. So if you usually use like a 10-inch dinner plate, then maybe get like an 8-inch salad plate or something like that, and then put food on that. And don't heap it up. Don't try to cram the same amount of food that you would normally have onto a smaller plate, but decrease the portion size accordingly so that it's visibly pleasing, but it will be less food. So that's a good way to start. At a restaurant, you can ask them to take half of your food before they even bring it out and put it in a to-go box. That way you don't have all that food in front of you and then you have to muster up the self-control to stop at halfway and request a box. So a lot of restaurants will do that. They'll just take half of it and put it in a box for you and then bring you that half portion. Also ordering off the appetizer meal or the light fare. Those are usually smaller portion size. Even getting like a kid's meal, some of those kids meals are still huge. So you could even just get a kid size meal and then you're starting with less food that way. So just starting out with less food is a good way to kind of wean your way into the ability to leave stuff behind if you hit that satisfied before your food is all gone. So that's one. Another way is using hand-sized portions. So the cool thing about hand-sized portion is different size bodies have different size hands and have different size food requirements, right? The bigger you are, probably the more food you need. So hands are portable. They can go with you anywhere. They're proportionate to your body size, and it's a visible reference right there, right? It's super handy. So here's how this works. So your protein, which is going to be your chicken, your beef, your fish, your bacon, those kinds of things are going to be the size of your palm. So we're going to go the width, the height, and the thickness of your palm is going to be one portion of protein. Now, like some protein, like a yogurt is a little bit different. We're just going to go with basically a cup or a fist portion size of yogurt. So because that's a little bit liquidy. Eggs, again, is a little bit, you can kind of figure that one egg is one portion for females, and for males, you can go with 2 eggs, okay? Because it's hard to determine that from a palm size too. And then you've got your vegetables, particularly your leafy green vegetables. That's going to be a fist size. So the size of your balled up fist, not like super tight, but a balled up fist, that's going to be your guide for your veggies. So your leafy greens, your broccoli, your Brussels sprouts, okay, your carrots, your peas, those kinds of things. We want a balled up fist. Your non-starchy vegetables. Okay, we're looking for the non-starchy vegetables there. The starchy vegetables, your fruit and your grains, your beans and legumes, your quinoa, your rice, your oats, those kinds of things, we're going to put into a cupped hand. So if you look at your cupped hand, the amount that it fills level off, okay, and it's often right around a third to a half of a cup, depending on how big your hand is. But that's going to be your kind of your grains and your starchy vegetables, like your potatoes, your winter squashes, those kinds of things are going to be in that cup size. Your fruit, so that's, you know, about a half a banana, a mandarin orange or two, maybe, an apple, okay, maybe a half an apple if it's a big apple. So that's going to be your kind of starchy grains, legumes, fruits, those kinds of things. And then you've got your fats. That's going to be your thumb. So that's about an ounce of cheese. It's about a tablespoon of peanut butter, a tablespoon of oil, a tablespoon of butter, a small, like quarter cup of nuts. So you kind of, your thumb is your little bit of reference, visual reference for your fats. So you can start there. You can, it's generally recommended that men might need 2 of those servings per meal and women 1. But again, we're not determining this on how much we think we need, but we're just using this as a way to serve out our meal in reasonable portion sizes as a starting point for finding that 5. If you serve out your meal and you hit 5 before you've eaten it all, you're done. You don't have to eat it all. So start getting comfortable with leaving some food behind, because that may happen and it's okay. It's not the end of the world. It's not going to, you know, starve some poor child in Africa to death. But we want to be able to walk away emotionally, physically from our meal once we hit that 5. And starting with smaller portions can definitely kind of help to start to dial that in. So if you're struggling with that, this is a good tip for helping you get started.